What's up, everybody? Today we're talking with my good friend Mark Lombardi Nelson, who I know in person, who, as you can see, has shaved his head. He's been rocking that look for a while, but today I wanted to talk with him about his journey around hair loss, around everything that's encompassing that, and maybe we'll go into some weird and strange places. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, good to have you. Good to see you, Jake. Much love. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, man. It's good. It looks like you got a nice little skybox behind you, and things are looking nice outside.
Yeah, I'm actually on the water right now. Kind of good.
Dang,
Not a bad
man.
life.
Dang.
So,
in the middle of a pandemic and you're on a vacation.
Yeah, just make the most of what you have.
I love it. Love it, man. Well, cool, man. Why don't you kick us off? Tell us a story however you want, wherever you want, and I might interrupt you in the middle, ask a question, and we'll just kind of see where this thing takes us, all right?
Yeah, sure. So, story time. I suppose a little bit about myself. I've got 7 brothers and sisters from a small town. Jake, you and I have been connected for quite a few years now at this point. I'm not keeping track, though. It's been a minute.
A couple.
And in terms of the things that I'm passionate about, it's typically around business, self-development, like ascension through consciousness, though ultimately problem solving, cooking, kite surfing, dancing, playing music, living as much life as humanly possible. And then, that goes to the hair loss side of that, which was interesting because it was such a significant event in my life. I had a lot of insecurity around it. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the things that was holding me back. I've actually done it twice.
Okay. So when did you first start experiencing hair loss?
Yeah. So the first recognition of hair loss, it happens in cycles, mm-hmm. right? You don't just show up and find it all gone. Yeah. So it's one of those things that hits you over time. And you cope with it in different ways. Like first, it's very similar to any other illness or addiction or thought process. Like recognizing it mm-hmm. is one of those things that you don't want to accept, and you're like, no, it's just changing. It's different. Though the more you go through it, like I remember speaking to my barber a little bit when I was in college, and she's like, yeah, are you aware you have some hair loss going on? And I'm like, don't tell me that. Please don't tell me that.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm sure it's fine. She's like, yeah, use this shampoo, you'll be fine. And then the more frequently you go, the more like, well, maybe this isn't a shampoo issue. You should be ready or prepared. And then you start going through different phases of like combing it over or pushing it down or like mm-hmm. trying to slick it back and make it look tight and like compress it. So it was hard. It's really hard, and it is one of those things that it was an insecurity, and I didn't love myself without hair or with the hair that was changing.
Why do you think that was? What is it that was connected with the hair or lack of hair?
Honestly, I think it was multifaceted. I think part of it was the natural aging process as a man. Mm-hmm. I think part of it was that sense of identity. I think, and we've talked about that before, though, who I was and who I am, and being fearful of who I would be without hair, how people would perceive me, if I'd be attractive to a mate or to, a partner, if I'd have the ability to, share that same confidence or share that same sense of self that makes me. Yeah. And so all those were fears. And ultimately it was, the biggest was the fear of not loving myself, not treating myself the way I deserve to be treated. And it was tough, though. It kept picking at me, and it was one of those things that was eating me apart to the point where it just got to be too much. I said, forget this. I am going to just take care of it myself. And all that built up to me just shaving it. And that response lasted for like a week. And then I immediately started hating myself more. So the first time I shaved it did not go well. And I ended up growing it back. I wore a beanie for like 3 months until it could actually semi-grow back. And it was dreadful. And there's nothing worse than that like regret feeling of having next to no hair in terms of like your receding spots. And then it's like growing back like very slightly. And it just doesn't look good at all. It's that awkward phase. It's just like that really awkward moment. So that was not ideal. I spiraled from that.
What do you mean you spiraled?
I put a bunch of weight gain. I stopped exercising. I started destroying my body, destroying my mind. I was not socializing. I was not engaging at all. It was just like very depressive based behavior. And ultimately I stepped back up to it and went at it again, just because I recognized it as an insecurity that I needed to own. And when I changed the mindset on it, and when I started thinking about it as a positive, that, I could bring youthfulness with this aesthetic into my 40s and 50s and be able to have that same, sense of character and be that same type of person with that aesthetic, it changed the narrative. And once I was able to control the construct, that gave me a lot of power to be able to step into that.
Yeah, for sure. So what narrative, can you define that? We've talked about it, but I just want to not extrapolate, but distill it down. What's the narrative before and what is it now that you transformed it to?
Yeah, sure. I think the narrative before was more so about, who am I without this? There's a sense of lack. There's a sense of not being good enough, being less than others because, and the absence of self-love because of, the natural progression of, the way my life was moving, with or without hair. And, where it comes to is that acceptance and that embodiment, embracing your value, embracing yourself, and recognizing that, your aesthetic is not a matter of your worth, at least fictitious in terms of, hair. Your health is critical. I think, it's empowered me to think deeper amongst the things that actually matter. And, realizing that any of the presumptions that I had around, hair loss actually do not impact my life. It's not going to impact, how attractive I am. It's not going to impact who I am as a person. And in fact, if it does, it's going to make me better because it's going to help me step into my more authentic self. And I thought that was an extremely valuable takeaway for me to actually execute and exercise on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love that. So did you try any other options? Did you consider any other options, or was it just like, I'm going to shave my head?
Absolutely,
and then I'm going to
all of it.
Okay.
Shaving the head was the very last ditch effort.
So it was the last ditch effort.
Yeah.
What was the first?
The first was trying to cover it up, right?
Yeah.
Like you have it and you see it receding a little bit. You don't like that. So, you pat it down, you find your jam, you push it over, you use a certain gel that makes it look thicker. Though, as you continue to age, you just see it changing and you don't like it. Like, it's not like, I think it's very similar to the issue women have with breast augmentation. Like for men, it's an area of insecurity where you do all the things to control it, and very few people, or at least less people than normal, own it and step into it and embrace it in that sense. And I find a lot of power in doing that. I found a lot of confidence in myself when I step into that sense of person. And people around you see that and they feel that because they recognize it's candidly not the first choice. Very rarely does someone choose this, right? So it's more so a sense of ownership. And that's an important narrative to point out. Like, there are people who do choose it, though it's rare.
Yeah.
And the people who own it for a reason.
So what were the other options that you looked at?
Yeah, so I was trying to see what could I do to keep it as much as possible. Then I looked into hair treatment systems. And I wasn't sold on, the results. And then there was stem cell therapy. And, that was something I looked pretty deep into, and it wasn't guaranteed. Then there was like the actual fake hair that you put on top that looks hella real and it's semi-permanent. And I thought that's something I would actually be able to use because I'd have total control over what that aesthetic would look like. And I'd actually, like, you think about the things you've always wanted in life. You're like, man, I could actually rock that hairstyle that I never thought I could pull off because of my natural hair. And you're like, I knew I'd look good with that. Why not? And you start to consider it as an accessory. Like, women have hair extensions. Why can't men? Like, this is an important conversation. Of course we should. Why not? But then I look deeper into my principles, and I'm a minimalist. I'm very much so a less is more kind of guy, and I really enjoy operating with that type of framework in terms of happiness and life pursuits. And I started realizing, stepping into the bald, clean-shaven look was the most effective, and it most resonated with my lifestyle. And as I mentioned a little earlier, I think it's going to help me actually keep my sense of self longer. Like, I was happy to step into this sense of who I am, because I'm 27 now. So the first time I shaved my head was 25.
Yeah.
Then the second time's 26. I'm 27 now. So the reason I say that is because part of my confidence with this is that I'm going to get to take my youthfulness and my energy and who I am as a person and that image and that brand with me for the next 10, 20, 30 years into my 50s. You know, while other people are going to have to go through this pain later in life, I'm able to step into it and be able to create my brand around it. And I think that's really powerful. I think that's an interesting sentiment that not enough people think about, though it's really just getting involved in owning the sense of who you are and who you want to be, and making sure that you're not limited based on anyone else's beliefs or even your own beliefs that are negative around just change that's happening. Like, it's just something you need to respond to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing that I love about the choices that you made is they're so inherently you. Like, because I know you, I know that this was the perfect choice for you. I probably could have predicted it, like if I looked at the situation objectively. And I think that's a really important thing for people to look at and address as they're going through this journey themselves. Is like, hey, it's not so much like what does this person say is the right thing for me, but it's like what is the right thing for me and my lifestyle and who I want to be and the brand that I want to project and all of these different factors, right? Because it's like it could take you down a completely different path for what is right for you, and I'm not so sure that there's a right method to go about it.
No, it's how you feel, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you're allowed to change. Like, if I wear a hair treatment system, that's okay.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's preferred. Like, I'm allowed to explore and be whoever I want to be.
Yeah.
And this happens to work with my current value system. I reserve the right to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And if there comes a time where I put on a hairpiece and I'm able to grow out the sides, because I still have hair, mm-hmm. though it's just receding, like right in the widow peak areas, and that's something that made me feel insecure. And so for me, it was stepping in and saying, I have total control over this insecurity, and I'm not going to allow my life to be lived and dictated by an insecurity that I have. So I'm going to step forward into it and remove it.
And that's one thing I love about your viewpoint, right? Is that you're like, all rights reserved. Like, I can do whatever I want from this moment on. I haven't passed this threshold that says I can't go and try something else. I can't make a different choice or experiment in the future. I've just made a choice for now, and it's working for now. And in the future, who knows, right? Like that. I
might come out full Elon.
Boy,
who knows?
Who knows, man? Just go from being all sorts of like Norwood, like 6 or 7, just come back with some beautiful, beautiful hair, right?
And why not? You know, he wears it well.
Why
People
not?
Talk about it. Do you remember early stage not billionaire Elon?
It's a thing, man. Yeah, I've looked at pictures and it's unbelievable. I mean, I believe it's like
unbelievable.
Like he was pretty much completely bald. Completely
damn near bald,
and now he's looking like Batman Playboy status,
because that's how it works, and you can create that narrative, and that's important though from a brand perspective. That was his brand. So you look at The Rock,
mm-hmm.
and you're like, The Rock's one of the most lovable men in all of the world.
So
like,
true.
He's the guy.
Yeah,
and he just stepped into it and owned it. I'm sure that was part of it. Like, I'm certain that was part of it. There's also the character he plays, and I think the character he plays definitely embodies that look as well. Though you don't just go all the way in without that happening. And you can look at pictures and you're like, all right, like you just see. And Jason Statham, same kind of thing. Like there's this sort of embodiment of like the bald and like they're like clean cut and then they're like jacked, or there's typically bald, bearded, and jacked is like a thing. Like, right? So it's interesting, though. One of the things that I thought about when I first went bald, I started compensating by getting accessories. And then that didn't resonate with me because I'm not an accessory guy.
What do you mean accessories? Like, go a little further into that.
Yeah, like, so once you like lose your hair, you shave your head, you're like, all right, well, maybe I'll get a necklace. Maybe I'll get like a hat or a bandana. Or I care more about what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Or I care more about my muscles, because you're compensating for the absence of hair, when in reality there's no reason to compensate. And it's like once you step further into that journey with self, now it's just a matter of saying, all right, like this actually fits me. And once you accept yourself, everything just falls into alignment really well.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I love that. That's great. That's great. As you've been walking out this journey, have you seen other people following in the same kind of journey that you've gone through?
Dude, it's the coolest thing. So I didn't realize, and you really, you don't, right? It's you don't realize until it happens. So the first time I shaved my head, I got about a dozen messages from other bald men in my network that was so supportive. And so they were just embracing. And it was one of those things, like it was a secret club that you're not invited into until you own the look. And they're like, hey man, it looks great. Well, like so one dude legit said, welcome to the club. Like, you know, we got to get t-shirts soon. It's just so funny though. It's an archetype.
Yeah.
And it's a way of life for some people. So, you know, I was actually able to inspire a handful of my peers, you know, less than 5, though definitely 2, to shave their heads because they were going through similar things like I was. And then like I grew mine back and then I shaved it again and they're like, hey, you came back. I'm like, oh, this is great.
The prodigal son returns.
Like, it's one of those things which is funny, though I've definitely talked to other men about it and men have reached out to me about it just because they're like, bro, how'd you do it? Like, I struggle with it too. It's a thing. I can't pull the trigger because it's such a sentimental thing. Like, for men, losing your hair is almost a rite of passage. Like, it's one of those things that makes you an adult, or you make it like it feels like you're an adult. We've kind of touched on this. You're almost like letting a prior self die, and it's, you know, you're stepping into a new sense of self, which is amazing because it's part of that maturity process. And it doesn't mean that doesn't happen, you know, if you don't lose your hair. It's going to happen regardless through your journey, though losing your hair is one of those compelling events, or it's a catalyst for you to take a moment of self-reflection and understand the trajectory of your life and who you want to be and who you're becoming. And so I think it's just one of those things that nature puts in our way, you know, with the genes that we have, that says, all right, this is part of what happens. And then it's our job to actually embrace that and make that into something.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I don't think I've ever said it out loud. You probably already know this, but as I was going through the whole like shave my head experience after trying a hair system, maybe this is about a month and a half now ago. I mean, you were actually a major contributor to me thinking like it was possible and helping me pull the trigger. It was scary, and I was like, man, I think I just sent you a text, right? And I was like, I think I'm thinking about this, and you're like, do it. And so I had my girlfriend over that night, and I couldn't do it myself. I was a little wuss, and I was just like, just run the razor through my hair, just do this thing. And but that was a moment, right? And it's a really interesting moment. How for me, I resonate with you. It felt as if part of me did die that day. Because we know for quite a while that our hair is kind of disappearing or leaving, and but you don't want to. You don't want to admit to yourself, and if you're watching this, and you probably know that feeling all too well, of just like tossing it in the corner and going about your life. And even if you like address it, you still aren't addressing it because you haven't taken any action, right? And that right there is the interesting thing. I think that should be talked about is. To me, it's like you said, it's a rite of passage of acting, whatever your action is, whatever you choose to decide in order to go on that journey it's definitely an experience. I think that over the past month and a half, I've started making some different choices in my life because of that. Now, that's not to say, in my opinion, that, like I will always have a shaved head like you, right? I reserve the right to go back to it, and I've talked with you about this before. I'll probably try out a hair system again because I'm going to experiment and see if I can make it work with how active and my exercise level. And I want to also give that to other people, like if they live that lifestyle, that way they know it's possible too, because that's a huge thing. But the something did change internally inside of me. I've been making harder choices, or not harder choices, but the ones I've been ignoring, and I've listened to myself more since doing that experience of shaving my head. And I can't even like really quantify it. It's very strange.
No, I literally get it. You know, I also had that push, by the way. Like, I'm grateful that I got to be that with you, and I got to serve a positive role. Mama Brown, which is one of my second mothers, she was the one. She's like, Mark, you look great with a shaved head. Like, what do you do? Like, I showed her a picture. She's like, you look better than you do now. Like, why aren't you just doing that? And that validation is important. So, I mean, if that's something that you're hanging on and you don't feel like you have it, ask some friends. Like, what do you think? Like, should I try it? Or, you know, leave a comment. Engage with the people that or have also been through it.
Yeah.
And we can tell you that it's worth trying. Like, it's worth doing at least once.
100%. 100%.
And then from there, take it where you want.
Yeah. And to add to that, I think to anybody watching this, no one truly cares about your hair as much as you do, or this issue. Like,
dude, zero fucks given.
We can talk about the whole like attraction of hair and all that kind of issue, and yeah, that's a thing. But no one is going to talk about you and your hair to someone else. It's not going to occupy their brain space. They're thinking about a million other things, and you know what? They're going to treat you the same as they've already treated you. People that are assholes and dicks inside of your life are still going to be that. And those that are supportive and loving and truly care about you are going to be the same. The only thing that's really going to change in this whole experience is you. Whatever choice you make. And it's about you loving you better.
Amen. Yeah, I think one of the only things I'd want to add on to that in regards to that choice of being able to become that sense of self and how people take it on. You know, in my experience, I actually found that in terms of attraction, the shaved head worked much better than, you know, the okay head of hair. Right? So embracing and stepping into that person had a net positive impact on attractiveness and, like, in terms of finding a partner and mate, than, you know, just being insecure and unconfident in who I was.
Yep.
Because that confidence is what's attractive.
Yep.
Like, that sense of authenticity and ownership of your life is what's attractive.
Mm-hmm.
You being decisive and stepping into who you are is attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And I was shocked by the positive impact that's happened from it, of me just embracing that. And that's something I'd want to share, because I didn't think I would be attractive. I didn't think people would find me attractive. I didn't think that, you know, I thought it would be a struggle for me to communicate that. And the more I learned into it and leaned into it, it was something that actually served as a benefit. And now is like, it's a differentiator, though it's a type. And there are a lot of women who, and men, if you're into that, you know, really have a compelling draw and attraction to the bald look. And so if you're friends, because you know, when you're in a friend group, if you're the only bald guy, that actually helps you. Like, you are the differentiated person, and that's a certain taste and a type. And so, like, be confident in being yourself, be confident in being different, and know that it's going to serve a net positive impact in the end.
I think action is the key element here. Not the choice, but action itself. Don't waft in the lukewarm of the current reality. Like, if you know something is not right for you, like if you're losing your hair and you feel really bad about it, like, make a choice, right? Make a choice, try something, and also know it's not forever. If it didn't work out for you or whatever, you have the full right and to go and make another choice and try something else that's different. And it's a journey, right? And it's never the destination. It's always the journey and the person that we become along with it. So with all that being said, I really appreciate you taking some time to talk with me, talk with us on this channel. The one thing I want to ask you before we end is, what do you want to leave everyone with here watching this video? Just one thought that they can chew on and digest. It can be something you've already said, something brand new that all of these individuals can take away.
Regardless of whatever decision you make, it gets better. So, like, if you're going through this process right now and you're fighting yourself on it, know that it gets better. If you're going through it and you've made a decision that you don't like, it gets better. If you've made a decision and you like it, guess what? It gets better. You know, it's what you said in terms of taking action. That's entirely the play. Be willing to keep iterating. Be willing to keep diving deeper into who you are as a person. You know, be authentic with yourself. That sense of understanding, loving yourself, give yourself the opportunity. Don't beat yourself up. don't let other people's thoughts or your perception of what other people's thoughts are going to be hold you back, because you're probably wrong. And the sentiment is, this is a really great decision in terms of life, regardless of if you take the bald look, or if you take a hair system, or if you hold what you got and you just ride it out. Just be authentic with what you value. Everything's going to get better.
Boom. Love it, man. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it so much. You're a busy man. You're a handsome man, and we'll talk soon.